So this talk is not really about GPT. It's about how wonderful Science is. We have some really strong features that can help us build a lot of powerful tools. In this case, we're taking blocks and custom code transformation, and we're connecting those to GPT. Okay. I know we have some partners here, so a few words for you before we start. It was important for us to invite you to inform you about what we're doing here. And at this time, this is only an internal demo. We're not releasing this material for you to hands-on work on it, but we are working on it, and it will be released as soon as possible, and we will be in touch with you going forward with everything we do. That's it. Okay. So, who knows what GPT is? I have a big hint here. Anyone?
Optimus Prime?
A bot.
A transformer. A transformer. So GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers. And what is that? It's a language model. Transformers is anything that, it's a deep learning model that maps input sequences into output sequences. So we always give it some text and it returns some text, but it augments that text. And what we're showing here is how we take data from Science or our questions coming in and see what kind of output GPT gives us back. A few words. So that was GPT. The release of ChatGPT, which we're not talking about right now since it's not available for the public by API yet. We're talking about GPT-3, which is the earlier model. So there was a huge development with the release of ChatGPT, and it's great for the natural language processing field. And I'm sure we're going to see more and more models like this, and it's going to change the way we work and live. So it's really exciting times. Science Blocks is a feature that's been available. It's a plugin that's been available for some time now. Allows you to create dynamic enriched content in your widgets. PR, can you mute everyone?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so blocks are JSON objects that render as HTML in your widgets and allow us to customize a widget with buttons and actions and so on. Helps us build an app out of it. Science code transformation is a way to run Python code on the server side, and it actually takes the query results, changes them, and returns it back to the widget. And it's a great place to integrate with either your own code or third-party services, machine learning models, and in this case, we took an example of the GPT API. So what we're showcasing here is the combination of blocks, which is on the client side, custom code transformation on the server side. And from custom code transformation, we're using a Python script where we call Science APIs and of course, GPT. All together, you'll see the flow. We can do really powerful stuff. So just a reminder, GPT is not a feature. We're not supporting it. It's nothing new in our versions. We will supply scripts that we did. Customers can do them themselves if they want. Please mute yourself. And we want to share our thought leadership on analytics, how we can take unstructured data from the world, meaning from the AI model, and bring that into Science where we have structured data and blend the two together. This is a part of our vision for how we see we will be enriching data with natural language querying in the future. We also want to show our developer community how powerful our APIs are, as well as blocks and custom code. And of course, ChatGPT is so exciting now, so it's really fun talking about it, and how our users can actually do it through Sisense. Okay, what's the business value? So I think there are endless opportunities here. I highlighted 3 of them. Enriching your data with external knowledge from an AI model. So I'm just asking for new data and bringing that into Sisense. Or I can take data from Sisense and with the result, ask a question from the model and get an enriched result. So those are 2 scenarios. And you'll see examples how we're doing natural language search within the product using GPT. And also, we can summarize natural language generation. We can summarize data coming from widgets or the dashboard into text. So behind the scenes, we have blocks, custom code transformation, of course, our API gateway, where we, through where we call all our APIs. And we show you how in this, you'll see examples here of using it with Snowflake. I'll emphasize it. It's not only Snowflake, but for some of the functionality, you have to have Snowflake. And of course, GPT. So you can ask business questions like, what industry is my customer from? Which of my customers have been acquired? What are the top companies in healthcare? And of course, there are endless opportunities. Okay, so I really wanted to give you a live demo this morning, but I think I switched the slides. GPT is overloaded at this time, so I tested it out all the morning and I have a regular license and I got a lot of failures. So I'm going to show here videos, but if you have questions, I can switch to the demo server and we can check it out. I didn't want to waste time. I'm sure I have an empathetic crowd here for live demos. Okay, so this part I can show you in live. We have a blocks AI widget. Okay, we have information how to install it. I'm not going to talk about it, the installation, because we have all that material documented. But here, all of this is a blocks widget. And you see here examples of things that you can ask. And you have 2 input boxes, the table name that all the new data that you're creating is going to be in a temp table on Snowflake. If you don't rename it, it will get run over. So you can change the name, your message, and then I'll walk through all the different steps. We're going to start with search. And just so you are familiar with what you'll see here, so we have here dynamic logs coming from the notebooks. And for debugging purposes, so you can see each step, what the algorithm is doing, what GPT is returning, and so on. And it makes life easier to debug because sometimes there are errors from GPT. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the video. Okay, so I'm taking here a question. What is the recommended treatment for the following disease on a specific dashboard? Blocks AI demo, widget diagnosis, column disease. Okay, you see I have this widget on my dashboard, but I could have referenced another dashboard. In this example, it's on this dashboard. And we're searching. So the first part, we're asking GPT to recognize what the sentence is like. Sorry. And it found that it was of type 4. So we gave it a column name and a widget name. So it automatically parsed our input. We could have had regexes and so on, but we decided not to do it like this. We did it with GPT. It identifies the different entities in our question. And then we ask for them to, from GPT to give it back in JSON form. So it returned dashboard name is Blocks AI demo, column name is disease, and so on. Okay, then we actually queried through our APIs this data from our widget. And here is the result. You can see it's a Jackal query. And then we asked for the recommended treatment for each disease. So GPT is already doing this. So for each disease, it gives us the recommended treatment. This is the prompt, if you're familiar with this word, of what we passed to GPT. And we're giving it instructions for what format we want it. So we want it in JSON form. And since we have a large data set, it's doing it in batches. By the way, a single batch can return an error, but it will continue. And finally, we're asking for the data type of the new data. So we're giving GPT examples of what we mean. When we say value music is power, the type is string. When we say value 1503, the type is numeric, and so on. And then we ask backspasm, what is the type? And this is in order for us to write this back into Snowflake. Okay, and here you see the output inside blocks, but we've also defined blocks, so it would also create a widget. So now you have this widget is coming, this column is coming from Sisense, this column is coming from GPT, but now we created it as a new widget. Okay, I want to show you in okay. This might not work. Yeah, I don't have it anymore. Okay, so I forgot to record. What you would see in the data model is you would have a temp table with that new data. The disease and what did I ask for? The recommended treatment. This table, I have a flow like this for every notebook that's running. So this is what we just saw search, and it's a step-by-step guide of what happens in the notebook. So first of all, we start with blocks passing information through API gateway to the query. We're actually not passing something very valuable, just maybe the data source for the notebook. And at the end, we're returning the dynamic logs to blocks. And inside the notebooks, these are the steps. So we have identify question type from the prompt. So we found what kind of question, what's the analysis we want from search. Then we looked for the entities and we asked to return it in JSON. That's number 2. Get relevant dashboard widgets. We're asking API gateway to give us all the either dashboard widgets or depending on the question asked or the data set. And then we're asking GPT to find the best candidate out of that. And then we're retrieving the data from either Snowflake or Elasticube, depending on the way you do this, and asking GPT to identify the data types. And finally, 7 and 8 is create a table in Snowflake, publish it, and return to blocks the dynamic logs. Okay, let's continue with the demo. Okay, so next, so I got this data. It's already in a table, recommended treatment. And now I want GPT to help me, so this is sitting in a temp table, and we want to match this temp table to another table in the data source. So we're asking for a relation. Here, we're just using the notebook, not GPT, but using our APIs. No, sorry, we are using GPT to give the best match. And it gives me a few examples. In this case, it was only one. And once I click that and click on Connect Tables, you see the temp table is already connected here to diagnosis. And this means that now I can create a new widget and just ask analysis on it. And it's part of my model. So it was like a one-time enrichment I did with the GPT, and now I can use it as any other data. Okay. Now we're asking for the, oh, sorry, this is the dashboard summary. Dashboard summary and widget summary are both very similar. You either ask for the widget or the dashboard. And on purpose, I showed here an example of something when I got an error because the GPT was not responding, and I eventually get an error. But I tried again and it worked the second time. So I wanted you to be familiar with when this happens. Okay, server is overloaded. This error is coming from the GPT API. I ran it again and it happened to work. Okay, so it's finding, similar as to what I showed in before. It's finding what kind of question I'm asking, finding the entities, and then running widget by widget the summary, and a summary on all of that. And at the end, it returns the summary of what the dashboard is talking about. Okay. We will share later on. We have another demo that's not ready yet. Actually, another blocks widget, which has only the widget summary and the dashboard summary. And then there is no dependency in Snowflake. And the resulting widget appears in a text widget. So you can do the summary. If you like it, you can leave it. If you don't, you can delete it. It's I think it's very useful. Okay. Any questions up until now? Any questions?
We have in the chat. Do you want me to read it or you see it?
I see it. I think I'll answer it soon. So, and if not, we'll see it in the end. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the setup, but for your environment, everything is supposed to be set up. Ben Sadan and Durga helped us build the Blocks GPT. Well, they built it, the Blocks GPT demo. It will be public. We'll have everything working there, and I'm sure they'll communicate how to work with it. But a few words about what you need. So it is dependent on the Blocks plugin. So you need to make sure that's enabled in the add-on section, and custom code transformation. should be enabled because it's by default disabled. And we have a detailed explanation of how to install it here in Confluence. We also made an installer file, which just helps you with the setup, but you don't have to use it. You can manually upload the files either to Blocks Actions, Blocks Editor, or custom code. You do need your own API key internally. We might be able to give you one, which is a paid version. This is being evaluated, but anyone today can go into OpenAI's platform and get their own personal key, a free one. I see the question on Redshift, so I'm answering it now. It may work on Redshift. It needs a little work, just to how to write back to Redshift. Okay. And finally, when you install everything, it needs to be connected to the Snowflake data source for the demo to work like we're proposing. And once you install, what do you have behind the scenes? So automatically you'll have Blocks AI dashboard and widget. Okay, like you saw. And in that widget, you'll have, it's the way it's displayed. You have we pre-built the script for it, for the buttons to be the way they are, and so on. Of course, this is something anyone can configure. And we have a set of 5 blocks actions. Each action corresponds to a button here, which corresponds to a custom code notebook. And just for this to look like this, we also changed the configuration in blocks. Okay. We also install an Elastic Cube called AI Transformation, which is empty. This is just a hack for us to always reference the same data model when calling the custom code notebooks. And in the custom code repository, we've added a file called AI integration, which has all the logic for the API calls. And it automatically installs 5 notebooks. Okay, 1 for each button. Okay. So I think I'm going to repeat a few things now, but just to be organized. So we need Snowflake, only read permission, and like I answered before, it is possible to connect to other databases, but it needs to be implemented. So that's just for writing the results to the temp table. We need that ability. If you would have written it to the Elastic Cube, you would have to build it. And maybe later Ariel can also explain. We might have a solution for that, but once we will, we will inform you about it. You need your own key, and you need to be a data administrator to create the table relation if you're using that functionality, and of course to control the model. Like I said, GPT-3, especially in the free version, is very limited. It's unavailable many times. And that's just the way it is. So there's a limitation for 4,000 characters, which includes the prompt and the result. So you can get an error on that. We've made it in a way that we do bulk batches of the questions in order to, if the data set is large. And if possible, best to use a paid plan for the API key. I'm taking a look at the questions for a moment. Okay, I'll answer them in the end. Okay, so in order to not waste calls to GPT, not need to wait for it and not waste money on repetitive calls, so we have a caching component for the different functionalities of calls to GPT. You can find it if you need it. You can find it in custom code, these files. And if you delete it, it will delete the cache. Okay. This is an example of the server overloaded error. Just try again. And this is an example of the GPT character length limitation. Okay. So why aren't we showcasing ChatGPT? Like I said, it's not available to the public. I know there was some confusion about it in the publications, LinkedIn, and so on. What we've done is integrate with GPT-3. Do we plan to productize this? This is not part of our roadmap at this time. I'm sure we're going to play a lot more with these types of models, but there is not like a business model currently that we can use here. And also, the AI recommendations need to be evaluated by an expert. So I think it's great if the administrator doing it is hands-on, knowing what they're doing, but it's not something that we can currently just productize out of the box.
Just to add over here, so keep in mind we have internal debates and there's multiple external debates about how is it secured, is it legal to use it or not, is it okay to expose the data to the customers, to the customers' data to the GPT. There's we hear all kinds of different legal and understandings around different opinions. Internally, we decided that we are not the one that will expose it deliberately, which means that we offer the how to do that, and the customers will implement it by themselves. That's why we are kind of not putting that as a part of the product, but allowing others to use the product capabilities. Once that, I think eventually that will be cleared out, and either GPT or some other organizations will be allowing security and allowing you to keep your data and just ask the question. Then we can productize those type of capabilities. Keep in mind, like a dashboard summary or widget summary, we send the widget data to GPT, okay? We took internal information from the widget to GPT and get a response to a machine that we not necessarily know what it's doing. So that should be explained to the customers that we are not taking the responsibility on the security part of it, and we have no idea what exactly how secure it is.
Thanks. And I can also say that the AI team is looking into other types of models. Some can be internally deployed, and then we can do more. But it's not on our roadmap, so it's nothing we can commit to. Just very interesting research and to see how it goes. And if you get requests or interest from customers, real interest that they understand the full value of it and how they would use it, you're welcome to bring it my way to see how we can.
Just to say, on the other hand, I hear all kinds of friends that takes I don't know, management meetings, board meetings, and summarize it in GPT. Okay, so I think everyone's doing that, but we have to be very careful what we say.
Right, but there is a difference between someone doing it for themselves and deciding for themselves, and for us to decide for our customers, which we cannot do at this time. Okay. Will the installer be available to share with customers? So no, the answer is no. It's meant for us internally to help us play with it and speed up the installation. But we're working in parallel in releasing some blogs and releasing some open source code in GitHub with a good developer experience for them to play with custom code transformation, with the GPT integration, and so on. So it will be released, I hope, by the end of the month. Can we share the demo video? So this is just everything Ariel just mentioned. You can share a demo video. You have to be careful what we say there. When it has to be clear that GPT, that we do not have an integration with GPT. We supply tools to integrate with GPT. If they like, they can do that. And just more of the same in different language. Yeah, so it's not an official integration and so on. Why is it only supported for Snowflake? Ariel, can you maybe take this one, and what are the options?
Yes, so we kind of generating the data without pushing the data to anywhere. Okay, the data is being pushed only to the model, you have probably Yael, if you can just show one of the example of we're creating what's called in Sisense on a live model custom import query.
Yeah,
okay,
let me run one and let's see if it works.
So yeah, so custom import query is just a way to get data from the data source. But in this case, what we do is simply not pushing the data into Snowflake, but putting the data inside the query itself. So if you look on the model, I
don't see it yet. A moment.
I didn't. No, the server is overloaded. Now you have it here. If you go back to refresh the model.
I think not yet. I didn't finish.
And again,
It
so
was this morning, and we just
so the last query, yeah, we have the last query. So run it again. It's we'll get it. It's better be in Israel time and not in US time. So US morning is hard. Yeah, you got the timeout. So in order to be, the request itself needs to be in the database language, because we are sending the values inside the request, and due to that, it's like it needs to be in the database language. We kind of and it's not really pushed to the database.
here I have an example.
Yeah. The other way that we kind of, so you can see, it looks like a table in the database, but if you just
How do I get to the?
no, do a change. If you just stand on it, yeah, you can see that the select star from values. Okay, so those are not tables in the database; it's just the tables in the query itself. So that needs to be in the database language. Redshift has a different language. We will add that capabilities. Unfortunately, in EC, it's not out of the box. We will need to develop such things to do that. The other option we consider is the slow option, which means that take the values in, put it in a CSV, and then create a build of with the schema changes, and then add only the tables. But that is much slower. It's not like a 2-second response. It's will be like a minute or two response on a small model.
Okay. And I think last question here is what Sisense version do you need? So it's supported on all Linux versions that have custom code and blocks. I didn't have time to look up from what release it is, but maybe Ariel, you remember, I think at least a year from now, you have custom
code transformation. So transformation is not a year.
Not a year?
No.
When? Half year? 6 months or something like that, I think.
Yeah, but like I think a 10 something was I don't remember exactly when.
We can I can update it here in the presentation.
Yeah.
And lastly, what are your resources? So you have the blogs that already have been published, and we'll have additional ones in the community. And hopefully we're going to get a lot of action in the community. We have the Confluence, where you're welcome to take a look. We will continuously update this with more and more information, but Getting Started has installation instructions. We have a tutorial of the flow that I reviewed with you, and a troubleshooting section. And we're going to have a deep dive into the notebook logic. What else? And we have our documentation for blocks and custom code transformation, which I'm really happy to say that yesterday we released the new documentation for custom code transformation. So it now should be available. This is it. So using Python to transform your query results. Open to questions. Anybody had a chance to?
We have a question in the chat.
Yeah, I can't see the chat.
If the Confluence page is shared with partners.
I don't know if we can.
No, we can't. But maybe we can create a external file that we can share with partners, but there's no access to Confluence.
I don't see a reason why not. We can create it. And the really organized information will be available later on. So, but we can share what we have from Confluence. I think I can have that ready like in a few days, sometime next week. Himanshu, I think we answered your question. It's a good idea, but need use cases for it. So if you get this request from a customer, let me know. David, can I invert this approach and allow GPT to analyze a table with my cube? I think, David, I think the answer is yes. Can I invert this approach and allow GPT to analyze a table within my cube, and then suggest benchmark comparative data to be used by enriching the cube with a table that reflects the I'm not sure why this is the invert approach. I think it's a similar approach if I understand your question. So you're taking data from Sisense and asking for a benchmark from GPT, and then bringing that benchmark back into Sisense and then comparing. If that's what you mean, then we can. Just only with a comment about the elastic cube. What else? Snowflake Redshift answered. Okay. Anything else? I hope the silence means you understood and not that it
I
wasn't.
actually have a question. I'm finding this all very fascinating. So I'm thinking about this in like a sales cycle type of mentality, like if someone were to ask us a question about this. And one thing I can see being useful is like the summarize dashboard and summarize widget one is like an instant kind of like win. How is it different than our narrative feature? I guess is like one simple question. And is the value there like that you're getting external information versus your own ecosystem information?
Yeah, for the narratives, I would say that it's like a research experimental approach. It's very cool. Sometimes it gives, because GPT decides if to enrich the answer or not. So it will describe in text your result, your data, like you have in your widget. But then on its own, it can decide to maybe add some additional data there. So it's narrative is a conservative, the narratives feature is a conservative approach. Whoever uses that can be 100% sure that it's production grade. All the data there is, exactly as it is in your widget. And using GPT, I think it makes sense to just like see what it says and for an expert to say, because it's more fluent than narratives. It creates.
Let me help here. So narrative is purely reading the data. Okay, GPT is actually summarizing the data. Okay. And that's a huge difference. You see a huge difference by the sizes of the words and characters that come out from both of them. So narrative is accurate, but if you have a lot of data, okay, too much data, too much to read. If you look on GPT, what we saw with the example that we play with is like he actually summarized the data, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, I think for the dashboard summary, it's really powerful. You can get a short description of what the dashboard is about. Even an internal idea, like to add an automatic description to the dashboard using that.
And I can see the value of putting, like having the narrative, because that's an easy sell. It's like, this is 100% production ready data, right? And then you can also say, and you can augment this, but with ChatGPT, with this potential integration. But I think what you said, a key feature is like, even this is true in the real world, it still needs an expert to like evaluate it. So I'm just playing with different ways to like present this to someone, but I think that's a really good scaffolding point, at least in my opinion, like production grade. But here's some really interesting ways you can also think about it. Little star, please review by an expert before, thinking it's really valid.
AI models are the future. They're very powerful. They can save us a lot of time. I think in Ariel's demo where he shows how to enrich your data, taking the customer names from your database and asking for the industry, or asking business questions about, which of my customers were acquired in the past years, or something like that, can really help with business decisions and save a lot of time. So, there are a lot of applications that they can use it for, and need to fine tune, for each business case, for each customer, they can fine tune these abilities to what makes sense to them.